like
Like put the chairs a little bit more on this side.
Tudo bem? Inicialmente eu vou falar em português e por dizer obrigado por estar aqui e desculpa para mim o português porque ainda não perfeito. Yes, I will try right now. Agora in English. Now I will speak in English. Thank you so much again for coming. Thank you so much for the efforts that you've put to hold such events. Thank you so much for not forgetting the people of Palestine. Thank you so much for not forgetting the cause of Palestine. Thank you so much for thinking of others while you could be easily living your life in a privileged situations where you just eat, study, sleep peacefully and you don't have to talk about Palestine, but you still wanted to hear and talk about Palestine. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. My name is Amro Fatayr. I'm a Palestinian teacher in so many places, professor in so many places, but not Ishktay, not yet. I'm a student at Ishktay of a Master in International Studies there. And right now I'm in my second year of my Master, which is doing the dissertation right now. It's a privilege to me for having the chance to speak in front of you. I really appreciate it. My speech is going to be a bit half personal and half not. And I was started as a personal because I lived all my life there in Palestine, which means that I lived 25 years there in Palestine, knowing that I may not live for That's why I feel it's also important to share my point of view as a Palestinian, either as a Palestinian individual or either as a Palestinian teacher or either as a Palestinian dreamer or either a Palestinian youth, just like any other youth in the world. I grew up knowing that we are under occupation, called the Israeli occupation. We are under blockaded cities where we have no freedom of movement. I grew up knowing that I cannot go to the beach, I cannot visit the sea, even though it is only 30 minutes away from my home. I grew up hearing about the voice of shells of the sea, hearing some stories about creations there in the sea, hoping that one day I will be there. So far I couldn't. I grew up there as a youth, knowing that most of the dreams cannot come true there. I grew up there knowing that my passport is one of the weakest passports around the world. I grew up there knowing that if I wanted to visit another city in my country, I cannot unless I have a permission, unless I have a visa to visit another city in my country. I grew up there knowing that we don't have an airport. Did we have in the past? Yes. Where is it right now? It's under the control of the Israeli government. I grew up on hearing bullets, bombs, bombardings, seeing people detained, arrested, killed in front of my eyes as a very young child, knowing that this could be the normal life for everybody in the world. Not imagining that there is out of the box, out of Palestine, there is a normal life. I grew up there knowing that we have no power on our borders, we have no power on our source of incomes, we have no power on the water, we have no power on the electricity, we have no power on the internet. Yeah, even though the first 10 years we grew up without internet, but yeah, still. I grew up there as a Palestinian youth that can only be patient about his dreams. So many occupations, so many jobs, so many opportunities we miss because of this. When I grew up even older, I'm becoming a student in my high school. We applied for visiting another city called Jerusalem. It's the capital that we all heard about. It's the capital of Palestine. We grew up hearing that one day we will visit it, and I applied for this journey, trip, vacation with my classmates, and yet we were still children, and yet we have been refused, denied from visiting other cities in our countries. Not only me, but also so many Palestinians have suffered of that. I grew up there in Palestine knowing that there are more Palestinians out of Palestine than the Palestinians are in Palestine. How so? Because the people who are refugees are even more than the people who are holding their hands and resisting of staying there. And yet I grew up even older and become a student in a university as an English teacher. I wanted to be an English teacher because I felt that language is the best tool to communicate, and the best way at that time was English because it is so-called universal language. Could be the language of the Western people, could be the language of the people who can liberate us, could be the language of the people who can sympathize with us, could be the language of the people who can give us freedom. So I decided to learn English and to teach English for other students, just to let them spread the news as I'm here doing today. Again, it's my pleasure to speak on behalf of my people, on behalf of my family, on behalf of my colleagues, in front of such bright eyes like you. The situation in Palestine has not started on the 7th of October, as you may have heard from President Marcel 10 days ago. The situation and the story of Palestine is a continuous story of apartheid, ethnic cleansing, colonialism, occupation, resistance since 1948, since 75 years. We are suffering the stealing of our land, our hopes, our wishes, and that's why I'm here also to speak about how did it started, why so, how did it develop, how did it continue, even with white and black cameras, and even now in 4K quality cameras, is still ongoing. Back there in 1917, during the First World War, Palestine used to be as a part of the Ottoman Empire, as many other countries in the Middle East. Yet after the collapsing of the Ottoman Empire, the British mandate took over Palestine under the name of the British Mandate of the Land of Palestine. So it was called Palestine. In 1917, there was a declaration called Balfour Declaration of the British Minister Balfour that is stated, we shall give the Jewish people a land So 1917, the Balfour Declaration stated that the British government is announcing and declaring the land of Palestine as the land that Jewish people can establish a Jewish state after the whole suffering around the world. Trying to find a place that collecting all Jewish people, knowing that before 1917 there were Jewish Palestinians, there were Christian Palestinians, knowing that there were Muslims Palestinians there living coexistentially together under the name of Palestinians, no matter the religion is. So during the British mandate, the British government facilitated the migration and receiving of the Jewish people to try to establish small settlements. What is a settlement? A Jewish settlement is a very small community, a very small village that is started with the very basic needs, very small houses, establishing a village, very small, and then starting to getting bigger and bigger and bigger until they become cities. In 1948, after the Second World War, the British government said that we are taking our hands off Palestine, and now it shall be Palestine and Israel at the same time. So many speeches, so many UN resolutions afterward, announcing that the land of Palestine is split between Palestinians and Israelis, between Palestinians and Israeli Zionists, with the idea of Zionism, which basically calls for a Jewish state only there. So this is what is the basic principle of Zionism. 1948 we called the Nakba year. The Nakba means the catastrophe year. We're around 1 million, at that time 1 million were a lot, to be forced, neighboring countries starting to receiving us in some so-called temporary refugee camps until they resolve the question of Palestine. So, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and even in some other places in Palestine itself, there were so many refugee camps that established at that time to receive refugees coming from other cities like Gaza, like Jaffa, like Akko, like to help Palestinians to get their liberation. In 1967, the percentage of controlling 50% be 78% for Israel, 22% for Palestine. Starting from there, as a collective parties to resist what tools they have to resist, only stones, only essays, only poems, only chants, because there were absolutely zero military tools to liberate Palestine at that time. 6, there is a party called BLO that is right now responsible on the government and leading the government of Palestine in the West Bank. So, there was a leader called Yasser Arafat. He's a Palestinian leader known for his encouragement and for his intention to make peace. We all know that we only make peace with our enemies. So he decided to make peace over the land that has been taken from Palestine, over the land that has been taken from the refugees around the world. In 1994, Oslo Accords, Oslo agreements happened and stated that Palestinians will take over 22% of the Palestinian land, allowing them to have a real state, allowing them to have power on borders, to control the borders, and to have the right of announcing a state, a real state called Palestine. At that time, so many parties also started to appear, like the so-called right now Hamas. Also, there is another one that is called more or less like the Shkerda here also. So there are a lot of parties, and they were only political parties with zero power of militant groups, or zero power of, because at that time there were actually no way of having some source of military armors and tools of resistance. In 1994, when Oslo Accords started, they allowed Palestinians to have a government over West Bank and Gaza, the 22% of Palestine, to control Palestine, and they shredded Palestine into 3 areas. The 22%, the last 22% of Palestine, shredded them into 3 areas: A, B, and C. A, where the Palestinian government fully control civilians and military level. B, civilians. At the civil level, Palestinians at the military level, Israeli. C, military and civil is all Israel. point, we agreed on this accords because we have been suffering for over 45 years, and we wanted really a peace accords no matter what. So yes, we wanted a peace accords. And we were chanting that at least finally we will have some freedom, some source of freedom. Now we can have an army, now we can have a government that can defend our rights. Now we can do some elections, now we can be democratic. However, the Israeli occupation yet continued. And yet the settlements inside the Palestinian lands yet continued to be initiated. More settlements, more colonial settlements as cancer, taking over the borders of the cities, surrounding each Palestinian city with so many Israeli settlements. So they cut off the connection between each city and city. People have seen that these accords has zero influence on reality. The failure of such accords led the people to say we are refusing these accords and we are not agreeing on that because you don't respect it. The Israeli people are not respecting these accords and agreements. They established the so-called right now apartheid wall. It's more or less like the apartheid wall in Berlin, but it's a bit tougher in Palestine since it is condemned since 2002. 21 years ago, it's condemned by the UN resolution, it's condemned by the international law, and condemned by the human rights, and yet it is still existed till this day. People at that time believed there was a chance to do two-state solution. However, even right now, Israeli people, Jewish people, Zionist Jewish people, if I may say, they refuse the two-state solution and they only calling for one Jewish state, and not all Jewish. To be clarified later, but not all Jewish, of course. In 2006, there has been a chance for doing elections, the first democratic elections to happen in Palestine, controlled and watched by the EU, by United States, by UK, by Russia, by Arabic League, by Egypt. So the people, as I said, start to get bored, start to refuse the negotiations, start to feel like we had enough negotiations that has nothing to do with the reality. We are supporting the armed resistance. At that point, there was a party called Hamas that is supporting the armed resistance, and the other parties, some of them are supporting, some of them that is controlled by the government. As so they are controlling the government, they are respecting the international law, and they cannot follow the armed resistance. So people started to vote for Hamas. Why? Because for a very simple reason. Hamas gathered the support because people wanted to liberate themselves, wanted a more functional solution, more practical solution. People have seen that and yet it's a political party that even may have their follows. So people would follow that, no matter their ideology. So it's all started as political parties who are seeking liberation, seeking resistance. Once Hamas won, it was the one of the enemy for the Palestinian government, the one of the enemy for the UK, the one of the enemy of the EU, the one of the enemy of the United States, and that's why all of them gathered to say Hamas are not going to control us. We are taking over the land. We are taking over the government again, and we are stop Hamas from controlling, because they knew that would be more aggressive, more military solution, more so the government that should take over all the country, which is Hamas government, only took over Gaza, and the West Bank is only controlled by PLO, Palestinian Authority. And since Hamas is leading in Gaza, it's not in the benefit of Israel. So what did they do? They blockaded Gaza. How? They made out of Gaza an open air prison, trying to avoid Hamas, trying to avoid all parties in Gaza, not even Hamas, trying to separate the Palestinian people, separating the governments. Instead of one united government elected, Israel worked on splitting, spreading Palestinians as an internal conflict to more problems and conflicts, internal conflicts, and half of the Palestinians are with BA and another half are with the Hamas, and that's where the story began of an open air prison called Gaza. Whenever Gaza tried to open the siege, people of Gaza got killed. Whenever they tried to speak, they got killed. Why? Because people of Gaza are part of the people who are suppressed even more and more. And we decided to see things differently in the West Bank than Gaza. People in Gaza would dream that they are citizens in the West Bank. Citizens of the West Bank, they are dreaming to be citizens under the Israeli government. There are some Palestinians who are living under the Israeli government. And those people who are living under the Israeli government, they're dreaming to be somewhere else, but not Palestinians. There has been so many attacks on Gaza since that day, since 2006. So many people got killed in 2008. So many children were killed in 2011. So many people died and killed and bombarded in 2014. So many people killed in 2018. And lastly in 2021. And yet till today, so many people, children, women, elder people, men as well, being killed, bombarded, under the rubble, with no electricity, no water, no food, no fuel, no source of communication. The CNN reporter, when they interviewed me here in Portugal, and trying to tell me, were you surprised Senor, were you surprised of the attack by Hamas on the 7th of October? I was absolutely not surprised. Why so? Because I exemplified that by the one who is Israel is putting the foot on the neck of the Palestinians, all Palestinians. And one of the Palestinians tried to push this foot away from the neck. Do you consider this as an attack, or do you consider that a right of defense and right of liberation, right of resistance? Well, sir, but there has been so many people killed, Israeli people killed in that attack on the 7th. I told her that there has been so many, even more and more and more being killed and will be killed, and you will not mention them. She told me until this moment 1,000 Israeli people been killed. I told her even 2,000 at that time 2,000 Palestinians were killed. Do you condemn that as well? If you condemn, I'm absolutely aware of that. The loss of lives is tragic everywhere. Loss of life cannot be acceptable everywhere, no matter what. I asked her, do you know about the prisoners? She told me, yes, I know there is more than 200 Israeli people are captive by Hamas and they are being hostage right now. And I told her, but you don't know about the 10,000 Palestinian prisoners by the Israeli government. You don't talk about them. You don't talk about 2.4 million prisoners since 2006 in Gaza. You're mentioning 200 in front of 2.4 million. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry, but I thought that the CNN would only employ people who are aware of what they are talking about. I told her that CNN Portugal must be aware of the reality that is happening there, because it is affecting the public, the general public. How can someone living in Portugal know the truth if CNN Portugal, Diário de Notícias, O Público, Expresso are only providing information where they are coming from only one source, one side of the story, while I'm sure that so many Portuguese do not know about Gaza until coming events, the latest events. That's how they start to know about the 2.4 million people who were imprisoned by Israel since 17 years. And one more thing that I wanted to mention for Palestinians, because I will mention a story, and then a story happened in 2008 where Israel tried to invade Gaza, and so Hamas militant resistant people tried to kidnap an Israeli soldier from a bulldozer, from inside the bulldozer, from inside the government, knowing that, I am doing the right thing. So he was kidnapped there. He was been taken as a hostage by Hamas, and Hamas kept it for 5 years and do an exchange, one Israeli soldier with 1,500 Palestinian imprisoned. One 1,500 Palestinian prisoner in exchange of only one Israeli soldier. Now, regarding nowadays context, for Israeli government, for Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, he's looking for these hostages, Israeli hostages, as Israeli citizens, and each one is one Israeli citizen. But for Palestinian resistance group, each Israeli hostage means thousands of Palestinians who are in the prisons. So Israeli who are hosts right now in Gaza are more valuable to the Israeli government. They are more valuable to Palestinians than the Israeli government. Why? Because each of one means a hope of freeing 1,000 at least, 1,000 Palestinians. Another thing, people look at Benjamin Netanyahu as the one who is going to solve the problem of the Jewish state, solve the problem of two-state solution, solve the problem of having a peaceful agreements with Arab countries, solve the problem of establishing a peace in the Middle East, while even himself has changed the judges only because he has been accused of corruptions 1 year ago. Imagine a prime minister, and I guess Portuguese people are aware of this because they are suffering and have been undergoing somehow to the same situations. Can you imagine Antonio Costa to change the judges that have been accused him of corruption? I'm not really sure if that accusation was okay or it's stated or it's true, but I'm just give you the example that can you imagine if Antonio Costa just replaced any judge who would accuse him of corruption? What country is this? On what basis you are establishing this country? Knowing again that Israel is a country that asks people at age of 16 to start their service, army service, means by the international law, by the European Union, by the UN, a 16-year-old individual is still a child. Which means that at that point, if you are a child of 16 years old, how would you differentiate the right and wrong as long as you are giving a weapon, bullets, and go kill? Just go kill. You are undercover no matter what. Want a proof? Under the eye and then the coverage of the French media in 2002, a boy killed in the lab of his father, asking peace, please don't kill my son. They shoot him. The soldier was undercover. And it's still continuous until 2 years ago, where the Palestinian American Al Jazeera reporter Shireen Abu Akleh, that has covered most of the Palestinian cause by media, has been shot and killed by Israeli soldiers. At the beginning, they said that it was a Palestinian bullet that killed Shireen Abu Akleh. Later on, we will start, because so many pressure in America, so Israel said that we will start an investigation regarding who is the one who killed Shireen Abu Akleh, Al Jazeera reporter. A year and a half later, they announced that we are so sorry, we killed her by mistake. 3 bullets by mistake. Refusing to get an ambulance for her. Her colleague was filming her dying, but couldn't get an ambulance because mistakenly was shot. Doesn't sound that familiar to your ears when it happened to the misfired rocket on the hospital, killing 1,000 at least Palestinian in last October, this October. At the beginning they said, we have footage that it is a misfired rocket by Hamas or by Palestinians that led out to fall in Palestinian hospital, killing more than 1,000. After some investigations, Russian footage just announced that it's not the case. Another team investigated the rocket that is there, and supposedly, how can an American rocket that weighed 85 kilograms been misfired from Gaza people? That is only can be launched by an Israeli jet, which is absolutely the truth, that they are targeting hospitals. And how can we prove this? We can just look today and yesterday, where 39 babies got killed and murdered because of lack of oxygen, because they were in the hospital. Bombing a hospital or cutting the hospital off from fuels is the same. Cutting off the hospital from the electricity is the same as bombarding a hospital. Killing doctors, nurses is the same as bombarding hospitals. So what justifies this justifies that. And simply, I can say that it is the one and only Israel that is doing that. Another question to me is that Israel is throwing rockets on Gaza, and Gaza is responding by rockets. But people cannot know that the Palestinian rocket that has been launched, it's not a really real rocket. Okay, it has some power to be launched, to get some fog, but some smoke, but later on, how is the damage? Absolutely not comparable to any Israeli rocket. The cost is only $250 for each small rocket that can only be few kilometers away from Gaza, and was improvised. It is only improvised ways. The footage of the Palestinian people while they were kidnapping on the 7th of October, they were using Russian machine guns that is old since 2002. Can you imagine the advancement and technology could be for an open air prison? Some people in Gaza do not know what is electricity. Some people in Gaza do not know what is internet. Some people in Gaza do not know what is a full day with rights of electricity for full day. You can imagine that since 17 days, Gaza couldn't get a full day of electricity. So the improvised tools there, we are proud of that because they are part of the resistance. And I have been always saying that Israel is not throwing flowers on Palestinians. They are not killing Palestinians by flowers. They are throwing rockets and bombarding, invading, killing. Why not to resist? Do you think an occupation, military occupation for 75 years can be resisted by only writing essays, delivering speeches, writing some poems? I absolutely agree that I am not with blood solutions. Any bloody solution I am against. However, because I have enough blood, I've seen enough blood in my life. I don't support any bloody solution. But it's not me who is under the safe sky of Portugal can decide that. It's not me who can decide what is the right way to resist, because resistance is resistance. And I know that right now, till this moment, 2023, 23, Palestinians are listed as terrorists by the definition of the United States. It's the same definition that listed Nelson Mandela till 2008 as a terrorist. We know, we believe that Palestine shall be free, whether people stand with us or whether not. But I've been always asking people outside of Palestine, decide your side, because it is what matters. It is the look of your son when he asks you, hey father, hey mother, hey sister, what was your position when you heard about the Palestinians suffering before they were liberated? Did you support Israel? Did you spread the news that Palestinians are terrorists, or did you support the humans in Palestine? My dissertation, my master dissertation here, I decided to write about this topic a year ago. As you may know, that you have to start at least to think about some topics and start to somehow to go fast and quickly before other students to reserve this particular supervisor, hoping that you can get some more marks, or he would be more flexible to help you in writing. So I decided to write about Palestine, but I decided to write how the Portuguese media present Palestine. The broad title was How the Western Media Presented Palestine and Palestinians in the Last 10 Years, a case study, Portuguese newspaper and Portuguese news media as a case study. I'm taking the O Público and Diário de Notícias as a case study to investigate how they present Palestine in the last 10 years. That was the proposal last year. Starting from October, I cannot cover 10 years. I only can cover what is happening right now, and if it continued, I can only cover few days of what is happening right now, few events of what is happening right now. So my topic has changed into how the Portuguese media presented Palestine and Palestinians during the current events. Why so? Why I have decided to write about such things? I have a Portuguese girl, friend. She's a friend of me. She's a girl. Her name is Joanna. I guess you're not surprised. At one day, she knows me since 3 years. We've met earlier in France, and yeah. So wanted to eat, and at some point of our discussion about Palestine and Palestinians, my family, she asked me, Amro, is this true? I know, what is it? And she told me this story. It was titled by the CNN Portugal, a Palestinian is trying to attack an Israeli soldier. And the Israeli soldier replied and responds by killing. And she told me, did the Palestinian individual started the attack? I told her, do you want to really know the truth? Well, yes. Do you really have the ability to see the video? Because the footage were separated and shared afterwards. So do you really want to see that? She told me yes. I took her consent and I let her see the video. That it was a Palestinian who is walking, and then an Israeli soldier, fully armed, interrupted his way of walking and asking for an ID. He refused to give an ID. So he started the attack. If you started the attack of bare hands, you should receive at least, or expecting another attack, a response of bare hands. But once the events escalated, the Israeli soldiers felt that he would be somehow humiliated by a bare hand Palestinian, he shot him. And from that moment, I took the responsibility that Portuguese public, Portuguese people do not know the exactly real story of Palestine and Palestinians. And once again here, what is happening recently, I have seen so many misleading. I have seen so much misinformation by the Western news media. I'm not only talking about the Portuguese newspaper as only, but I'm also talking about other Western news media. So I said, right now, it is my responsibility to share at least one fact, to stand with the counter narrative, knowing and believing of the importance of the counter narrative. As long as we share the news, as long as we talk about ourselves as a counter narrative in front of the Israeli narrative, we are 100% sure we will win this narrative. Why so? Because people right now are not fooled. You cannot be fooled if you are able to see what is happening on the ground exactly. You cannot be fooled when the CNN reporter said that there will be 40 babies beheaded by Palestinians, and when they asked for the footage, she said that she heard this information, and then it spread it around the whole news. Even Biden himself, White House, said that exactly. But people 2 days, 3 days ago are aware that this is not the story, this is not the truth, and start to think, what if there is another side of the story? And that's how we started to share through our social media platforms, through our speeches, another counter narrative that we are not. Once you see the truth, you will know by heart this is exactly the truth. That's why I believe it is really important to talk about Palestine in such events. I've previously chit-chatted with your colleague, telling her that it doesn't matter how many Portuguese students will come today, because I will speak even if there is only one student, because I believe I can make the change for only one. And if I can make the change for one, this one will make the change for another one, and these two will make the change for 5, and then 10, then hundreds. There was a professor that when she heard about I totally respect her idea and her opinion, but I don't agree with it. She told me, what do you think we our researcher can do? Do you think you are being so naive? And I told her, excuse me, I'm not being so naive, and you will see that I can change the perspective at least of one of my colleagues. And if I could do that, I can make even more. And by this, I'm telling you, I'm really thankful, delighted, pleasured to be here talking about my people. Knowing that I may not be able to see my family again, or the people who are still alive of my family. When I said goodbye to my family, I didn't know that it would be the last one, because I perceived it, okay, it's this goodbye as any other goodbye, and just, yeah. But nowadays I'm thinking that could be the last one, the last hug, the last kiss for my family. And I'm trying to think positively that at least I will be alive to share the story of the Palestinian people. And excuse me, they are not 11,000 and half Palestinian killed. They are more than numbers. They were engineers, they were doctors, they were professors, they were nurses, they were mothers, they were sisters, they were children with bright eyes, hoping, dreaming about being successful people in the future. I would never mention that I have lost 12 people from my family. I would have said that I lost 3 doctors, 2 nurses, 1 engineer, 2 plumbers, and a very successful mother. I wouldn't mention numbers because they are not numbers. They are more than numbers. They are stories to be told. If I only have one polite request from you, is only one. I'm not asking people to stop eating or stop living their life normally. No. Live your life normally, but when you eat, think of others. When you drink, think of others. When you have your phone, you have electricity, you can live peacefully, think of others who may not have the same privileged life. And please, don't stop talking about Palestine and Palestinians, because this is how these stories came to here. It's by never ending tellings of our stories. And generation by generation, we will not stop talking about Palestine. But please, at some point, when you are delivering this story for the coming generation, as I believe all of you would be very successful individuals, either fathers, mothers, sisters, professors, engineers, daughters, doctors. Just whenever you deliver this speech, this story about Palestine, please say that at one point we have met one Palestinian professor, and he told us that it is really great to see you talking about us. It's really great to see you thinking about us. Believe me, people of Palestine really appreciate this. I was Palestinian living there. Right now I am a Palestinian living abroad. My heart there, my mind there, but I still living abroad. My body is here, my tongue is here. I'm sharing the news. We are really delightful, thankful to you for thinking of us, for thinking of humanity. And I just wanted to end this speech by a very optimistic sentence, that I myself believe that my country will be free one day. Hopefully, I will witness this. Hopefully, I will be one who put some efforts in our liberation. Don't cry about Palestinians who are dying and not seeing their country to be freed. Be sorrow, be sad about yourselves if you had the chance to help them and you did not. Because either way, Palestine will... questions. If you wish to ask me any question, please feel free. I'm so sorry for amount of emotional luggage that I put in my speech, but it's always like this. I will be more than welcome to answer any of your questions, any of your doubts. And yeah, please go ahead. Yes, please.
About people, Palestinian people who live in Israel that you mentioned, how does it work about the culture and religion?
That's a very interesting question. People who are living in Israel, Palestinian people who are living in Israel, they are forced to have the Israeli passport, the Israeli ID. Why? Because they are living under the Israeli government. Otherwise, you go to be a refugee in another place. So, what language do they speak? They speak Hebrew, unless they are in the home. What language do they get education? They got their education in Hebrew. Do they live exactly equally like Israeli people, other Israeli people who could be just only like neighbors? No. Why? Because they are living as a second level people there. How could that be? Second nationality. Yes, it could be. It could happen. It's exactly the same racial system around the world. It's happened there. Yes, by names, that you're not David, you are Muhammad, that you are not Shalom, you are Ahmad, that you're not Gorion, that you are, your name is Mustafa or yeah, they would act once you know that you're wearing a hijab, for example. If you are wearing a hijab or a scarf on your head, they would definitely know that you are not a pure Israeli people, a pure Israeli citizen, and that's how the story started. They suffer freedom of being in so many positions, governmentally speaking. They cannot put and establish a fully Arabic courses. They cannot have Palestinian ID because they had Israeli ID. What would people think about them? If you saw that they have an Israeli passport, you said, oh, they are Israeli people. But however, they are not, because they are Palestinians by blood. But somehow, identity is not about the ID card. Identity is not what I am stated by the government or by the law, who I am, or what's my gender, or what's my religion. I am who I am inside myself. I am who I am, my identity. So people living under the Israeli government, they are really suffering. And right now, they cannot even do a like button. In the most and only democratic country called Israel in the Middle East, the most democratic country in the Middle East, they so-called claimed Israel to be. But they cannot put a like on any pro-Palestinian post on social media, otherwise they will be stated as supporters of terrorists. No absolute way. They are really like, okay, people in the West Bank who are living under the Palestinian government, somehow they still can do the like, they can write some things with hidden words, and people in Gaza, they can write whatever they wish, but people in Palestinian people in Israel, they cannot absolutely be freedom by what they say. I myself, as a Palestinian living in West Bank, I cannot even share a lot of things. You can go to my LinkedIn and you will see nothing about. Do you think I can participate in protests and demonstration manifestations if I was there? No, I cannot. Can I deliver such speeches? No, I cannot. Why so? Because I will be imprisoned either in a very real prison, or either they will deny the right of traveling from me. They can take it. Easily they can take it. Do I expect that right now after participating in so many demonstrations here in Portugal? I guess once I am there, because I will be entering from border that they control, yes, I will be denied from traveling again. Will I go there right now? I guess no, because I don't want to be imprisoned right now there. But people living there are living in a very extreme bad situation. I wish to be in Gaza rather than under the bombing, rather than being in the Palestinian under the Israeli government. Why so? Because at least if I'm getting some attacks and bombardings there, at least I can say, please, no, don't, or free Palestine. But there you cannot. You cannot hold the Palestinian flag. I cannot wear this if I wear this, even though it's not similar to that one. Yeah, I still have this one as well, kufiya. Yeah, this is scarf, this is kufiya. Both are not allowed. This flag is prohibited they cannot. Absolutely, they cannot. So living there is really, really bad. And I see them in literature. We can call this as expat. You are an expat in your own land. You are a refugee in your land. You are deported. You are someone without an identity, a real identity, to be yourself in your land. So we see them with some privilege. Why? Because they have an Israeli passport that allow them to use the airport. So that's why Palestinians from West Bank wish sometimes to be Palestinians who living there. Why? Because at least we have the right to use the airport. Why I'm keep mentioning the airport, and I don't get bothered by the sound. I really love it. I know it's bothering to you sometimes, but for me, I really love it. I only start to hear it once I'm here in Portugal. So 25 years without this, and coming from this is like a child seeing and playing there. I really like it. I still take so many photos because in Ishkite, it's really, really close. Yeah. So why I keep mentioning this, because to come here, to come to Portugal, it took me 40 hours. 40 horas para chegar aqui. But for example, if any of you EU passport holders wanted to visit my country, they can be there in 4 hours from Lisboa airport. So, can you visit every centimeter, every meter of my land? Yes, you can visit it all. Because you have, for example, a foreign or an EU citizenship, or you have a EU passport, or you are a tourist. So, practically speaking, you guys are more Palestinians than me in my Palestine. How so? Because you really have more rights than I do there. So feel free to go there. As long as you're not Palestinians, then you're safe somehow. It's a tragedy, but it is what it is. One day I hope you will visit the place there. It's really wonderful place. And I can see so much similarities between Portugal and Palestine, starting from الزيتونة and الزيت. Because I know people in the West still not recognizing even the country and the state of Palestine, so how they would consider their olive oil. But our olive oil, it's really sacred to us. And it really means a lot. That's why it's existed on our scarves. On every time we have you never found a Palestinian house without an olive tree. Why? Because it resembles our resistance. And Israeli people know how we really love. So hopefully, guys, when you go there, you will enjoy it. Hopefully, inshallah. And very silly questions. It's always very good question.
I have a question about solidarity and
Yes.
how right now is a big right now there's a big debate about what's solidarity. How can we be solidary? Because is it by raising money that it will not go for anything actually? We need to help you to resist somehow in our privileged little city right now. How can we do that? How can we pressure the international governments to act upon it?
Really good. Thank you for the question. Well, in the context of Palestine and the context of Gaza especially, fund has no place. Because money has no value while you're being killed. No matter how millionaire, billionaire you are in Gaza, you still are in Gaza. They are worthless. They don't mean anything. You're wearing Dolce Gabbana or you're wearing any other brand, it's the same thing. You will be killed, you will be killed. So to them, how we stop this, how we show solidarity? We show solidarity by such events, coming to such events, going to protests. Don't worry, it's just peaceful protests here, and just marching perhaps from Praça Municipio to Assembleia, or marching from Rocio to Comercio, or it's only chanting Free Palestine, so it's totally peaceful. And you're not supporting any group, or you're only chanting for Free Palestine, that's it. And stop the genocide, ceasefire, that you're asking very simple things and you're not following any other parties. You're only following the resistance. And that's the goal. So going to such events, being in such events, holding such events, and as I said earlier before, mentioning them on your social media, sharing stories, writing posts, articles, journals, essays. This is how you can show solidarity. Do you think this would matter or not? Well, to me, I have seen so much of shadow banning about Palestinian content. So if it doesn't matter, why they should shadow ban it? So to me, it really matters. There are so many accounts as well on social media that I know. If you want to follow, for example, to see much more on the ground, to see real images from there. If you want it, that's how we got to share things, by sharing real things, by sharing photos, videos from reality, not by saying and telling stories. What does that mean? The difference between the Israeli media and Palestinian media, and the stories coming from both sides, is that the Israeli media tells you what is happening there. However, in Gaza, people of Gaza are showing you what is happening there. And there is a very big difference. So, solidarity has so many faces, as I said. So, be here, be there, shout Free Palestine, this flag, Skofia, just such events, such circles are really, really helpful. Another question? Yes, please.
Perhaps this is related to the previous question, but is there anything that Jewish people who are in Palestine can do in particular, or is it the same advice?
Yeah, they can add it that not in our names, because we perceive that the cause of Palestine, the question of Palestine, is absolutely not a religious one. How? Because there were Palestinian Jewish living there. There were Palestinians, Muslims, Christians. They were living peacefully, coexistentially, and yet still there are a lot of Jewish people who are refusing, absolutely are against with what is happening right now. We have seen so many around the world, especially in the United States, UK, and so many other places. We Palestinians appreciate this, and actually we believe Jewish people, when they stand with us, are more powerful because they are Jewish people. They are sharing things with Israelis, that the religion, for example, but they don't share the same ideology. And they believe in a freedom Palestine, and they believe in peace, and peace everywhere. So, and as I've said earlier as well, it's all relatable to solidarity. Solidarity has so many faces, and your voice is really, really much appreciated and much valuable to us. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say something. I don't know if you are aware of this or not, but the Sephardic law. Do you know what is Sephardic law in Portugal? Which is a law that gives the Sephardic Jewish from who has been forced to leave Spain and Portugal to have another nationality, Spanish or Portuguese nationality. The law that allows them the right to, and giving them the right for a second nationality. Here in Portugal, until now there is roughly around 65 Jewish people, 65,000 Jewish people with second nationality. A month or something ago, a Portuguese newspaper said and shared statistics that said that more than 70,000 Jewish people are asking for a second nationality, and they have submitted their applications for this year. And not only Portuguese nationality, also Spanish. You can see British, you can see American, you can see Western European citizenship. Why so? Most of the Israeli people have another nationality, a second nationality, and they call it's a plan B of failure. If the Jewish state failed, we have another. And this is actually denies the fact that they believe in a real Jewish state there, a fair Jewish state there. If it is a home, they don't want it to be a fair home, and not for all Jewish. Unfortunately, they don't believe there are so many internal conflicts, so they have so much racism, unfortunately. And for us, we perceive that the 500,000 Israeli citizens that flee since 7th of October, only because they don't believe in what is called the Israel state. You have 2.4 million Palestinians in Gaza, and if you gave them the chance to flee right now to Egypt, they wouldn't. They would stay in Gaza because they have been refugees earlier, and they know that this is the land. So they wouldn't leave their home, even though it is bombarded. 500,000 has left Israel. Before leaving, they were all Israelis, but once the things started, they become other nationalities. It is the same. Those people who are being hostage right now in Gaza, before 7th of October, they were absolutely all Israeli people. But once they've been captivated, they been called as other by their second nationality to give the important. And I perceive this is for them, as long as they haven't participated. Any Israeli person who haven't participated in the army, which is almost impossible, I perceive him not as a direct enemy, because I have more direct enemies when those people who are really killing us. And the fact that there are so many civilians in the Israeli community is really debatable. Why so? Because the Israeli settlers, they are living in a stolen land, and right now 400,000 machine gun just given to the Israeli settlers to defend themselves. Those settlers who are living around the Palestinian cities, because they are fearing that some of the Palestinians would come after what is happening. But they have like machine guns with 4 stores. Each store contains 30 bullets. Like they have 120 bullets free with a machine gun, supported by Netanyahu government, because they are living in hot areas among Palestinians, not living in Tel Aviv. So newcomers on Israel, they don't live directly in Tel Aviv. No, they would live between Palestinians, go suffer there with some settlements. Once you become rich, you can come to, who are right now invading Gaza. The army that is invading Gaza, most of it is made out newcomers, Jewish people. And by the way, Israel is the only state that once you say that I am a Jewish, please, this is your passport. The only state, the only country that once you say that I am an Israeli, I am a Jewish, this is your citizenship. This is your passport, your citizenship. You have your house there, even though if it is among the Palestinians, even though it is established on Palestinian lands, on the Palestinian land, yet this is your home, this is your gas, this is your free water, free electricity. Live there, try to engage yourself in the Israeli community, and this is how things establish. So I truly believe that the state of Israel has no future there. I truly believe in this, because the incidents and the gestures of what is happening right now, it doesn't seem that they are really seeking peace. And that's a very reasonable way of thinking, that they are not looking for a peaceful country there. You can also add any other question if you feel.
I arrived too late and I apologize for that. I'm sorry but a few days ago, a document was supposedly leaked from the Israeli state outlining what I would call the final solution version 2.0 with with all the implications that this reference has. And the only apparently acceptable solution to deport Palestinians to global north, to European states, and so on and so forth. This, I think, creates a conundrum, because if we as in like the European states, if we end up in the future, if it comes to that, and we end up accepting this, we are enabling Israeli violence. But if we refuse to do this, we are literally killing by inaction Palestinian people by not accepting them as refugees. And so obviously this is on purpose. It's simply just between a rock and a hard place. It's how do you feel we the state should address this? If it ever comes to that, what do we do?
Okay. In Jordan, it's a neighbor country of Palestine. There is more than 3 million Palestinians. Egypt itself, the population of Egypt is more than 100 million Egyptians. 2.4 million adding to 100 wouldn't make that such a problem, regarding that there is a very huge desert in Egypt. So accepting Palestinians to come is not a real issue for Egyptians or for Jordanians, but the real issue, as you said, is that by accepting this, we are affirming and we are signing on the legal genocide, legal ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. That's why Palestinians themselves, I said that they wouldn't leave even though they had the chance. I myself can reassure you that if I just gave my father a call right now, Dad, I have a very nice home here, come and stay here, he would refuse, because he would say this is my land and I shall stay there. And if you for example, from a European point of view, people would see that if we are not accepting this as well, we are putting Palestinians under. But we believe that there must, of course, another choice. Of course, there is another option, a third option that asks Israel to stop killing Palestinians, for a ceasefire, to stop killing children, to respect the international law, to respect the so many broken UN resolutions. And we really don't want to say this because I'm studying politics and I will be somehow a professor of politics as well. And I want to say that it has changed from being the international law to international law, because absolutely, if it is being international law for some countries and not international law for others, then it is not. What human rights are you calling for if it is not the human rights of Palestinians as well? From the public, either Portuguese, Spanish, British, European, American, Jewish, Muslims, the public stand with them because simply they stand with the humanity. However, politicians see the thing otherwise. Children being killed there, but why they are not? Because they are not interacting, because they are protecting their interest as well of having Israel, because having Israel in the Middle East is like controlling the Middle Israel from the Middle East. It means that I have no power again in the Middle East, and this will never happen unless the gas has ended from the Middle East, fuel has ended from the Middle East, Iran would stop initiating some nuclear weapons if they even have. Russia would be an ally to the United States of America. Imagine how it's really difficult for the United States of America to say we are not supporting Israel. It's really, really tough for them because We have seen how so many taxes going to Israel. Why so? I mean, like, why this is? I mean, Israel by itself is a really rich country. Tel Aviv itself is the most expensive city in the world. I know you heard about Hong Kong, how much it's really expensive. You heard about New York, how much it's really expensive. But you haven't heard about it's really expensive economy. And they are advanced in technology. They don't economy. And they are advanced in technology. They don't really need that push-up from America or from the EU. But America sees the things differently because they look at from another point of view, another perception than from a Palestinian or a human being point of view. That's why we believe that there must be a third solution. That's why we perceive that politicians of Portugal, at least, and starting as well from the president as well, to know that it's an occupation that has started since 75 years, and not saying it was you who started this on the 7th of October. It was a group of you. It was really, really a ridiculous comment, I'm sorry to say this, because it neglects and just suppressed the story of 75 years ago. And that's, you're putting, and the ambassador of Palestine said that, but there is an occupation and there is a root cause for this. And he told me, no, the occupation is another story. It's like he's legalizing the occupation. I'm sorry to say this, but he is legalizing. It's saying okay to occupy, but to colonize, but it's not okay to attack or to refuse or to resist. So there must of course be another third option that we are looking for, that we are pushing people to say more. Ceasefire now. I say this, that please people, if you are free on sábado, este sábado, Praça Municipio, there will be the national march for supporting Palestine. So please come and let's go to the assembly to put more pressure on politicians. And believe me, the vote of Portugal is really, really important. No matter how you see it's not, but as a community that contains a lot of Jewish people, it's really important to also to stand with the humanity with Palestinians as well. That's how I see things are more democratic as well. Putting the Israeli flag on São Jorge Castello and not putting the Palestinian one is not really, is only saying that we are only seeing one side victims. And as well as in the municipio or assembly, they only put the Israeli flag, they draw it, and I saw this as a one side of the story. And I'm only asking to see another one. I'm not fighting another, I'm not pushing, I'm not chanting for anti-Israeli things, because if I'm shouting for anti-Israeli things, I guess I'm not going to live for the second year. So I'm chanting for pro-Palestinian things. I really care about chanting pro-Palestinian chants rather than being anti-Israel, because I wanted to focus on this. Pro-Palestinian means that people pro-humanity, and afterward, if you want to be pro-humanity, you know where you stand. And I'm not, you choose, you decide. I'm not forcing you to decide, but be human and see where you will stand. But thank you for your question. Were you having a question?
I really just wanted to, no question, thank you for sharing this with us. And it's really important. I don't even have the words to say it, and I don't want to, because I don't want to overstep in any way. I just really, really, really appreciate coming here and telling the story and giving faces and a face and a name to this cause. It's really important to us. Yes.
You're welcome. Thank you again and again, one by one, for coming, for hearing me talking about not very nice things, but still you came. Thank you so much for your sense of humanity. And hopefully that things will get better, and I will be delivering another speech talking how we resisted and we did it, hopefully.
Thank you so much. I wanted to say that we are also here occupying this school because we believe that we as students and student movement, we need to be the ones resisting this unfair and unjust system that we're living in, colonialist system that we're living in, and we'll stand for it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much again. Obrigado. And so I'm so sorry for not speaking in Portuguese. I said I can say that I perceive more Portuguese than I speak, but it's still because I just came and I'm still learning. Hopefully I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bom, maltinha, eu vou ficar por aqui também. Por hoje já chega de ocupas. Amanhã já temos aí mais ou menos uma agenda definida. Eu, pela parte da manhã, depois faço uma publicação a dizer onde é que vamos andar. Já sabem como é que é. Se puderem marcar presença, marquem. Se não, vejam aí nos nossos diretos. Todo o nosso trabalho é autofinanciado. Se nos puderem ajudar, agradecemos imenso. Aquele abraço e até breve.